Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to another edition of To The Point podcast. Hope you guys all had a great weekend. We are now into February. The month of January just flew by with obviously the province going into red and all the different cases, but trying to stay positive here on my end. We got lots of sports going on. Obviously, we're leading in here to Super Bowl week with the Super Bowl this Sunday. All week there'll be storylines. Obviously, it's a different year with Kansas City. They're not actually going to Tampa Bay until Friday, which is really abnormal. A normal year, they would be in Tampa right now. And today is normally media day, where every big media person in the world is down there. They ask all the players questions, the coaches, and it's normally a different media experience than we see normally because there's some reporters like Jimmy Fallon usually sends some guy and he asks some like really satirical questions, and it's a different experience. But it's gonna be a different week in Tampa. But obviously Sunday for it's gonna be a different, just different. 22,000 fans scattered across America. All the different teams are gonna be represented with fans. The fans are chosen randomly, like season ticket holders were put into this vacuum and they're all shot out, and if they want to go to the game, they could say they weren't happy with health guidelines, restrictions. They could decline the seat. So it's not going to be a Tampa centric, Bucks fans completely at this game. It's going to be a scattering of a bunch of different fan bases. But nonetheless, we got Super Bowl this week. The big storyline heading into the game is obviously Mahomes and Brady. Brady heading into his 10th Super Bowl. Just crazy that he's playing at 43 years old. And that, he could win his 7th Super Bowl. He's played in 10. The next closest quarterback is John Elway, who's played in 5. That's just how dominant he's been. But, he's going up against this wonderkin in Patrick Mahomes. Mahomes is the Chiefs won the Super Bowl last year. He's already won an MVP. He's thrown for 5,000 yards, 50 touchdowns. It's a battle of titans, but it's something that's been talked about last week, because I think as football winds down, you're just looking for storylines on these shows. And one of them was, well, if Brady beats Mahomes, then Mahomes could never be the greatest quarterback of all time. I don't agree with that. Obviously, these GOAT debates, the Jordan LeBron one that's talked ad nauseum in the States. I think if you would have said, 10 years ago, Joe Montana will never be, some people would have said Joe Montana's the GOAT, he'll never be passed. And it's not Brady passed him, for some. I think Joe is still regarded very highly. He's never lost a Super Bowl. He's won 4 Super Bowls, 3 MVPs, never threw an interception, 4 appearances, 4 wins. That's hard to turn down. Brady's 6-3. He could either be 7-3, 6-4 after Sunday. But Brady is going to be very hard. I mean, he's won 6, and it's tough to say the GOAT, because when you talk about Tom Brady and you think of quarterbacks, yeah, you think of him, but you don't think of him because he's so good at being at the quarterback position. What I mean by that is the way he throws the ball. Like, there's a lot better throwers of the football than Tom Brady. John Elway threw a better ball than him. Dan Marino threw a much better ball than him. You could say Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers. I mean, and you think, okay, well, quarterback's supposed to be, deadly accurate. They're supposed to be able to throw the ball down the field. Brady has done that this year, but historically, throwing down the field, that hasn't been Brady's game. You think of James White. You think of Amendola running in the slot, Julian Edelman, Wes Welker. Those guys weren't burners. They're not running 50 yards down the field. They're picking up 10, 12 yards every play. And it won them Super Bowls. And, even in Brady's wins, his first Super Bowl, the team scored 17 points. That's not exactly tearing up the opposition. He's lost to Eli Manning twice. You're going to lose them, but he scored 14 points in 2007 on an undefeated team against the New York Giants. What I'm saying here is it's arbitrary. It's up to different people. People can say, I'm sure there's people that watch hockey right now and they say Sidney Crosby's the best hockey player of all time. Do I buy that? No. But it's it's such an arbitrary thing that we discuss, and it's impossible to quantify, really. I mean, you can look at championships, but I don't think anybody says, Mark Messier is better than Wayne Gretzky. Messier does have 6 cups, but I don't think anybody, that knows hockey everybody knows that Wayne's better than Mark. But, if Mahomes loses, I think it's tough for him. But, if he's been in 2 Super Bowls and 3 seasons as a starter for Mahomes. Brady did the same thing to start his career. And then Brady, he won the first 2, and then he took a while until he got, from 2004, he didn't win another one until, 2012. It was a long stretch for him. And I just think Mahomes is 25 years old. He could have a knee injury and be done tomorrow. But to say that it's over if he loses, then what's the point of playing? The guys are going to try to do great things. And, I'm sure LeBron James already thinks he's better than Michael Jordan. But to set the mantle and just say, well, it's done forever, I get the conversation. And, Tony Romo said this, that it would close the case, but I don't think it's ever shut. I mean, sports are ongoing. Until they cancel sports forever, these conversations are going to be had. And, it's their 5th matchup. It's 2-2. So that's another intriguing thing. Who will go up 1? But, we're looking at this year. Tom Brady played really well this year. Mahomes is the best quarterback in football. Who says they're not playing against each other again next year? You're telling me that whoever wins this, if the Chiefs win or lose this game, I guarantee you the next day, because Vegas sets the odds the next day, they'll be the favorite to win the Super Bowl in 2022. Without question. That's just the way it works. And maybe they flame up. Maybe they get a bunch of injuries. But it's really tough to quantify this. But I don't buy it that, that the case is shut on the GOAT debate here. I think there's always intriguing options. There's always, who says there's not another next quarterback that comes in? Cooper Manning, Eli and Peyton's nephew. He's playing high school football. Maybe he's going to be no good in the NFL. Maybe he makes NFL. What if he comes in and just starts lighting it up? That's just an example. There could be a high school kid playing in Wyoming that we've never heard of, but he could be great. If he goes to the right organization, they win 5 Super Bowls. Say a quarterback comes in, he wins 4 Super Bowls in a 5-year span. Tom Brady never did that. He never did it. So who wins that debate? Tom Brady's played a long time. He went a decade without winning a Super Bowl. I just think we need to pump the brakes a bit on just closing the argument. Obviously, there's a lot of Tom Brady fans out there, and that's fine. But to say it's over, I think that's really premature, and it hurts the sport, to be honest, just with the people wanting to talk and the notoriety. Also, an intriguing thing this week is testing, for COVID. Starting from last Monday, players are getting tested twice a day for COVID. So basically, they're told, you go to the facility, you go home, you do not talk to anybody else. I know a lot of players are not with their families. They're staying at a hotel or somewhere else, because if their wife went to the grocery store and she ran into somebody, and if you get it now, you're out of the Super Bowl, and they're not going to reschedule the game. So, players are on high alert to, to be ready and don't mess up here. It's the biggest game of your life. How devastating would that be if it's a Friday, the game's Sunday, and you test positive and you can't play? It's a mess. It would be so 2020, 2021 if that happened, because it's just been a year from hell. But, I really hope that we can go through the week and nothing terrible happens, where either team's not missing a key factor in them winning the Super Bowl here, because I think it's going to be a great game. We got the two best teams remaining, and I believe that. I did pick the Bills to beat the Chiefs, and I did that more with my thinking because I had the Bills. I liked them midway through the year, but I think the Bucs were clearly the best team in the NFC. The Packers were frauds like they were last year. So, and another thing, the line of the game, it's 3.5-point favorite for Kansas City. That's a pick 'em. That's, Norm, I think if the game was in a neutral site, but even with this game in Tampa, like I said, there's not going to be a whole bunch of Tampa fans. I think this just shows how close these two teams are. The Chiefs are the favorite, but for me, I like the line. I don't think they're any more of a favorite than that. Underestimate the Bucs, and they'll destroy you. The Chiefs are going to be missing their left and right tackles. JPP, Jason Pierre-Paul, Shaq Barrett coming around the edge. I could see one of these two guys winning the MVP of the Super Bowl if the Bucs win, just because they'll sack Mahomes a bunch of times. They'll get them off the field, more possessions for Brady. Obviously, they'll want to give the MVP to Brady, just like they'll want to give the MVP to Mahomes because it's the quarterback and they have to give it to the quarterback, it seems like, just like they have to give, Conn Smythe Trophy to the Alex Ovechkin, the Sidney Crosby in those 2 years where neither of them deserved to win it. That's just the way it goes. But I think both, Shaq Barrett, JPP, they could get 2.5 sacks, maybe a strip fumble. You could see them winning the MVP of the Super Bowl just because they're going to have that big of an impact on the game if the Bucs win. Likewise, on the other side, I think Tyrann Mathieu is the guy for me on defense that I could see winning Super Bowl MVP. He comes up with turnovers. He's always around the field. He makes big plays, and he's the honey badger. He hits hard. He can force fumbles, and I think he's the guy to watch on defense there. But yeah, we'll be talking about the Super Bowl throughout the week. If anything comes up, I'll keep you guys up to date. But Friday, I'll have Matt Wright on. We'll preview the game. We'll talk about what we think will happen. We'll give our predictions. But it's one of the greatest weeks and also one of the saddest for me. Sunday night at 11 when the game's over, it's a realization that there's no NFL until September, and that sucks. That sucks. It really does. Yesterday afternoon, I watched some hockey games in the afternoon, but I miss football. Football is just, you can't beat that sport. I mean, you can't. But yeah, Super Bowl this week. We'll keep you posted on what's happening around that game. Also over the weekend in the NFL, there was a big trade. I knew Matthew Stafford was gonna get traded. I didn't think he would be going to the Los Angeles Rams. I thought the Colts might be the best destination for him. They're about a quarterback away from being a real threat to win the Super Bowl. Their defense, they got some good weapons on offense. They got Jonathan Taylor out of Wisconsin, who's emerged as the number one running back. But the Rams, they make the trade. They acquire Matthew Stafford from the Detroit Lions. The Rams send back to Detroit starting former number one overall pick, Jared Goff. They also get a 2021 third round pick, a 2022 first rounder, and a 2023 first rounder. Now, just looking at this trade on the surface, the Rams, since selecting Jared Goff, they have not made a first round selection. 2017 trade away, 2018 trade away, 2019, like I said, and then 2022, 2023, they've gave to the Lions. They haven't had a first round pick since 2016 when they selected Jared Goff. In 2018, he got to a Super Bowl. You could say that was really behind a great defense and that bad referee call against the Saints. But he got there. He only put up 3 points in the game. And, since those 2 years, he's really regressed. They made the playoffs this year. But I think, like I said throughout the year in the podcast, I think the Rams could have won the Super Bowl this year if they had a better quarterback. And, Matthew Stafford's 32. He's taken a lot of lumps. He's another former first overall pick, 2008 with the Lions. But he's got to be ecstatic. He's going to play with Sean McVay's his coach. Sean McVay is one of the most creative minds offensively in the league. He's got good running backs, Cam Akers, Henderson, who he's never really had great tailbacks in his career. That's something that's hurt the Lions. He's got Robert Woods. He's got Cooper Kupp. He's got Higbee. I'm not saying they're elite receivers, but they're all good. Josh Reynolds. They're good receivers. And he's got an arm. And I think he's 32. He needs to win here soon. And I think the Rams said, we're not going to win anything here with Jared Goff. We could maybe win a Super Bowl with Matthew Stafford. Let's push our chips to the middle and see what happens here. And I like it for the Rams. The fact that they traded Jared Goff, he's starting this year on a 4-year contract worth $134 million with over $100 million guaranteed. This contract is just a black hole that the Lions have now just taken on. And I don't know what the hell they're doing. I mean, they want to trade Stafford. They got new head coach Dan Campbell. But you're clearly going to have to go through a rebuild here. You're not good enough. You don't have – the Lions are just an inept franchise. And I think this trade illustrates it, because if you want to tank, if you want to stink, why trade for Jared Goff and take that contract? You didn't get a first-round pick this year. I get you got 2 in the next 2 years, but I'd want a first-round pick this year to get a third-rounder. What if you trade with the Colts and you could get a first-rounder this year, multiple years after that? You're going to get 2 first-round picks, get 2021, 2022. And then you have 2 picks in the first round this year, and you can start to build a roster, build a foundation of what's next in Detroit. But now you have Jared Goff there. He's just starting his contract. So now are the Lions, are they just going to pivot and say, okay, well, we got a kind of a veteran quarterback now. We need to see what we can do. We need to kind of make some good signings, change up our philosophy here. Then you're just going to be the same team you always were. A losing franchise. And again, I pick on the Lions, but they're run by the Ford family. I have a hatred for the Ford family because I hate Ford. Your grandfather owned a GM dealership. If I don't hate Ford, then I'm not being me. I'm not representing my family here. But for the Lions, I get it. They're happy because you get 2 first-round picks in 2022, 2023, but I'd want one this year. And I don't want Jared Goff. Never. I don't want him. Now, the Rams drafted him first. They traded up to get him at first overall. He got them to a Super Bowl, so credit to him. And he's won some playoff. He beat Seattle this year. So credit there. But he's not an answer long term. I think he can win some games. But you got Goff now, who's been playing in LA, who's a way better quarterback in a dome. He's going to Detroit to play in a dome, but you're going to play in Green Bay. You're going to play in Chicago, Minnesota. It's not warm there. And you're in a tough division, Detroit already. And I don't know. The Goff contract just seems like you're stuck with it. And now you're stuck with him, and what, you're going to draft a quarterback with your first-round pick, a rookie, and sit behind Goff? I just think it's tough right now for the Lions and what they're going to do. I would have found a different trade partner. The Washington football team, I'm sure they made offers with him. But for Stafford, I think this is a great change of scenery. He finally gets out of Detroit. They did nothing to help him throughout his career. He's only hurt. He's been beat to hell there. He gets out of one of the worst organizations in pro sports. So, he has a legit chance to do some damage here. If you look at the NFC West, Seattle's still there, but they beat them in the playoffs. So there's that. I think you still got Aaron Donald on the back end of that defense, Leonard Floyd. And the Rams are good. Jalen Ramsey, they're legit. You look at San Francisco. They're kind of in a state of flux because Jimmy G, is he going to come back? Their running back position, which they really rely on, has been banged up that whole last year, they couldn't keep a running back healthy. Richard Sherman's likely moving out on defense. Fred Warner maybe moving out on their top defensive player. What's going to happen there? So they're kind of in a transition. And then you got Arizona, who seems to be on the rise, but they haven't taken the full step yet. So Stafford, you got to look at the Rams right now and say they're the favorite to win the NFC West. So good move for the Rams, and for Sam Snead and Sean McVay, I think it was a good move to get Goff off the books and see what you can do long term here. There's also obviously a bunch of rumors in the NFL about Deshaun Watson. He's requested a trade, and then the team introduced new head coach David Culley last week, and Nick Caserio, the GM, said they have no interest in trading Deshaun Watson, and I can see this getting really messy because he doesn't want to come back. He was promised things clearly, like he wanted input on who the new GM was going to be, possibly the head coach. I don't think he said verbatim like I want to pick the guy, but he wanted to get he wanted a say, and they didn't give that to him, and they hired an African American coach after basically backpedaling after they didn't interview any. They didn't interview Eric Bieniemy and Leslie Frazier till later. But if I'm Deshaun Watson, I want out of Houston. He threw for the most yards last year. He's a superstar quarterback. He's a top 5 quarterback, and they only won 4 games with him, and it's only going to get worse. They don't have a first round pick. Don't have a second round pick this year. They have no talent. They have a running back who was long in the tooth 3 years ago. J.J. Watt's likely leaving Houston. It's ugly right now in Houston. But the only thing that he can do is hold out. But what Houston can do is every day he doesn't show up to say mini camp. That comes in April, where they show up basically and they do these tests and they do on-field workouts and stuff. It's basically a fitness test. It's about a week and a half. You can find the player close to $100,000 a day for not showing up. And I think players have done it, but eventually it takes a hit out of your pocketbook and you're like, I need to get back here. Deshaun may show up, be a good soldier. He's got a full no trade. But if I'm him, I want the hell out of Houston. And I do what I had to do to get out of there. Trade demands, for some players, I really don't get it. Some guys, they don't earn it. If you're just a fringe player and you're not playing and you're a healthy scratch, well, I don't think you're demanding a trade. No, play better, work harder. For Deshaun Watson, he's earned the right to ask for a trade. He's done what he could do for Houston. He got the team to an AFC divisional playoff game. Then, they lose to Kansas City. No shame there. And then they trade DeAndre Hopkins that next summer, his best receiver. And they trade for Larry Tunsil, lose first round picks, leave him with no real talent to throw to. And, it went to hell from there. So it'll be interesting all offseason what happens. Obviously, Stafford's off the board, so that's one quarterback that's moved. But Indy needs a quarterback. The Washington football team's likely going to need a new quarterback. The Patriots are a team that's in the quarterback market. The 49ers may be in the quarterback market. There's a lot of moving parts here, what teams are going to do. The Jets, what they're going to do with Sam Darnold. So I think it's going to be one of the crazier off seasons. That'll be good on the podcast. March is the trade deadline and free agency. So I think a lot of things are going to be happening here. And obviously with the draft, that can decide a lot of things too. So yeah, a lot, for NFL winding down, there's still a lot of news, and that's really, I'll keep you updated on Deshaun Watson, any new reports, but as of right now, he's a Texan. The team said they don't want to move him, but I know he said, he's not even talking to members of the organization. He's not picking up the phone call. So he wants out of there sooner rather than later. Also over the weekend, there was some NHL action, of course, and really the big feature for me finally waking up was Connor McDavid. I thought he kind of had been off to a slow start, kind of sleepwalking his way through the season, but that quickly ended this weekend. 9 points in 2 games. So Saturday, Sunday puts up 9 points and was just dominant. And, Leon Draisaitl, 8 points, 6 assists last night against the Senators, 1 away from tying an NHL record. These two are so good. They're 1-2 in scoring in the league. And, I picked McKinnon to win the Art Ross, and I'm realizing now it's stupid. Why should I ever have picked against Connor? The game against the Leafs Saturday night, he won them that game. He had scored 2 highlight reel goals, made Muzzin and Riley. He's in the past 2 years, he's made them both look like Aki Berg out there, just make them look like they're on figure skates, don't know what the hell they're doing. And, he's such when he gets the puck, and he's a guy, if he could score a little more, like when he gets a ton of breakaways, if he can finish a little better, he could win a Rocket Richard, because he gets so many opportunities based on his speed driving to the net. But, it was good for Edmonton. They've been in a tailspin here. Obviously, they lost 3 straight to Toronto. They get a win Saturday night after, a beautiful deflection from Connor, sneak it past Freddie Anderson, and they get the win there. And that was an important game because, they blew a lead, but then they came back and they won it. Then they play in a back-to-back after playing a lot of hockey, and, they beat Ottawa last night 8-5. Stuart Skinner got the start for Edmonton. This was the first game this year that a goalie was in the net that wasn't Mikko Koskinen. He had started 10 in a row for Edmonton. He's been with Mike Smith out and no depth behind him. It's been a struggle there. But, I think the offensive production is so impressive, and he's clearly going to be first star of the week this week, I think. But they have no depth, and it's still clear. Thursday night they played Toronto. Ryan Nugent-Hopkins played 28 and a half minutes. It's a forward. 28 and a half minutes. And if you watched that game and it was a late start, it was 11 o'clock, you could have told me he didn't dress, and I wouldn't have been like, yeah, I wouldn't fight you on him. He played 20 and a half minutes. 20 and a half minutes are the most null and void minutes I've ever, he didn't do anything. And that's kind of what the Oilers have. They have Joakim Nygard. They have these players on the third and fourth line that just aren't getting it done. They signed Kyle Turris, hoping he'd kind of find a resurgence coming to Edmonton. He hasn't yet. He hasn't shown the next step or showing, revert back to at least half of what he once was. And it's got to be frustrating for McDavid and Draisaitl because they go off this weekend and they still, 8-5 last night, but the third period they gave up 2 goals. And I don't know. They need enough. They don't have Oscar Klefbom, and that's a huge loss. He's likely going to miss the whole year. And he's close to being a number 1 defenseman. He's that good. He's really good. But they need, Ethan Bear is not ready to play 25 minutes a game. I think Ethan Bear is a really good defenseman. At times, I think he's average to below average this year. He hasn't played great this year. Statistics can boost your play, in my opinion. When I think of a defenseman when it comes to scoring, you got to watch the whole game. If you just look at the box score, okay, he played great. Like, a forward can score a goal, and some people are like, well, he had a good game. Well, did he really have a good game? I'm not so sure he had a great game. Maybe he just scored a goal, and then it's like, well, the rest of the game I can do what I want now. Well, no, that's not how it works. You played okay, and that's kind of where it is. But for Edmonton, they need to acquire a defenseman, but I don't know if they can this year with their finances. A guy that could play at least 23, 24 minutes a night that you're comfortable with. Ethan Bear's not that guy. Adam Larson's not that guy. Chris Russell's not that guy. Evan Bouchard's not going to come up and save you. Evan Bouchard, I didn't think was an NHL defenseman when he was playing at the World. I thought at the World Juniors he was propped up to be one of the best defensemen there. he was awful for Canada. Awful. And the fact that he hasn't been playing here yet with Edmonton, as bad of a decor as they have, tells you something. He's not ready. So, again, I think this is a really impressive weekend, but it's 2 games. You got the wins. So, check, good for you. But you're not going to win 8-5 every night. And Connor McDavid and Draisaitl are going to put up points all year. They're so good at it. But they're not going to put up, Connor had 6 or 7 points last night. That's not happening every night. Draisaitl's not getting 6 assists every game. And, I think a lot of people associate the Maple Leafs and Oilers together, which last year I would have. I think that was an apt comparison, because guess what? They both played in the return to play, and they both lost in the first round. And it was clearly why, because they sucked defensively. And if Matthews or Marner wasn't scoring a goal, the Leafs weren't winning. If Draisaitl and McDavid weren't scoring goals, they weren't winning. The difference this year is Toronto has improved their defensive play. So Toronto's playing great. I thought they took 7 out of 8 points in Alberta. You couldn't ask for a better road trip. They're really impressive. I think Austin Matthews has taken his game to another level. He's emerging as a top 10 player of the league. TSN poll had him like 3rd or 4th on the list. That was ridiculous. You have 1 year where you play the back half of the year consistently, and then you get propped up. So far this year, I don't think he's had a bad game this year. And he's just creating every time he's on the ice. He's the threat. And that's what I've been wanting to see. Mitch Marner's had a great start. But, at least defensive play has improved. Muzzin and Hall have really been great for them. I think the forwards are starting to realize that coming back and helping out subpar defense is necessary here to win. And, Nico Lettinen, Dermott, these guys are interchangeable. They're not really, I don't think either guy's an elite NHL defenseman right now. But Toronto, they got firepower, and really their special, secret weapon is their power play. If they're not scoring power play goals, it seems like they score 4 or 5 seconds after the power play is over. And they got two power play units that are cooking. And, I don't like 2 defensemen on a power play. And I know that goes, me and my dad fight about this all the time, because he, obviously my sister plays defense. And he likes to see her on the ice. But Toronto's best power play is when they have Matthews, Marner. I put either Bill or Tavares on the top unit, and I might go 5 forwards. Morgan Rielly, he's not a threat. He's a decoy on the power play. That's what they tried to do at Nazem Kadri. They tried to put him in the bumper. He never got the puck, and he was just a garden gnome out there. That wasn't his fault. That was just the team's scheme. Morgan Rielly's at the top, but he doesn't scare anybody back there. If you see the puck go to Matthews, 4 guys will converge. All 4 will converge on him. They're not doing that to Rielly. I think if you go Matthews, Marner, I keep Simmons in front of the net because I think he's effective there. Put Bill and Tavares on one unit and see what happens. They got a great power play right now, but it's not going to click at the rate all year. Contrary to Leafs fans, it's the same everywhere. Montreal lost their first game, and I see on Twitter people are like, "Oh, finally, here comes the slide. Here comes the slide." They lost their first game in regulation in 8 games. Like, teams are going to lose games. Yes, it's sports, but I think Toronto has played great so far this year. I think they're still the second best team in this division. I said, Friday, Montreal's the best team. I'm not going to remove them just because they lost 1 game. I'm not doing that. So, but I think it's been an impressive start for Toronto. I think addressing their bottom 6 defense is something they're going to need to do before the season's over. Bogosian, Dermott, Lettinen, that's not good enough. And again, I mentioned Evan Bouchard. Rasmus Sandin is not playing, Leafs fans, as you know. But don't you think if he was good enough, he would be playing? Because, the Leafs roll out that defense, and it's no good. He can't be that great right now. Or he would be in the lineup, because there's no AHL. He'd be playing. He's sitting on his ass right now, just training. So I think when people clamor for these young guys to get opportunities, if they're not playing, there's usually a good reason. I mean, I think Leafs fans, you'd agree with me. Sheldon Keefe's not a bad coach. You like him, right? You hated Mike Babcock, even though he was right on most things he said. But now you have your nice coach who's, not as temperamental, and he's not, Mike Babcock. He's Sandin be playing if he was ready. And I think that's the thing with these young players. Maybe they're just not ready. And I think this is a case where Sandin, Ed Bouchard in Edmonton, these guys just aren't ready. And you got to wait. And that's why you're seeing these guys that you've seen 100 times, and Travis Dermott, who he is what he is. He's not getting any better, but you roll him out there because that's who you got. So, but no, Toronto, impressive start. I think Freddie Anderson's really turned around his game. Saturday night's loss was not his fault. Some defensive breakdowns, and Connor McDavid just being the best player in the world beat Toronto. Him outplaying Matthews for the first time this year, head to head. I wanted to bring up Colorado because I watched a lot of their game last night against Minnesota, and Cam Talbot played great for Minnesota. He robbed Nathan MacKinnon in the first period. It should have been it was an open net. Cam Talbot flashed the leather. He made some big saves, but Nathan MacKinnon left the game after the second period. I hope he's okay, obviously, for Colorado. But the bigger deal here for Colorado is Joe Sakic, and this might seem like a hot take, but I think it's true. If he does not address the goaltending issue in Colorado this year, he should be fired. I would fire him. If they go into the playoffs with Grubauer and Francouz, or whoever played last night, because Francouz is hurt. I don't even remember his name. He's just not important. Whoever he is. Could be, he's an ECHL goalie, whatever. If they don't address the goaltending issue in Colorado, Joe Sakic should be fired. And he's built a great team. They've drafted a lot of great players. And I might be shooting off too hard here, but I don't care. He should be fired because that team that they have, it was a joy to watch them last night. They lost the game in overtime a lot because of goaltending, and MacKinnon was hurt. But, MacKinnon, the first goal, it's just a beautiful little sauce pass to Jonas Donskoi, chop cheddar. Burakovsky's playing really well. Donskoi's got 5 goals. You probably don't even know that Jonas Donskoi. He played in San Jose. He's playing great. Rantanen is just a truck out there. He's getting faster skating, and he's a big boy, and he can mow people over. Their back end, you got Cale Makar. Bowen Byram did not look out of place last night. I thought he played well. You got Eric Johnson. You got Ryan Graves. They got a defense that's loaded. They got the team that's loaded up front. However, last year they could have won the cup, but you have these goalies who don't know what the hell they're doing. Siegfried and Roy back there. They got to address this. And I like Joe Sakic. He's a Canadian hero. He's an Olympic hero. But if you don't, you should be fired. Point blank. I think Kenny Holland is a guy who has a lot of respect in Edmonton. You brought back Koskinen and Smith, and you have aspirations to make the playoffs? What were you? You were smoking more than dope when you made that decision. Those two guys are your answer. So yeah, you're in press conference. So Kenny Holland, what are you planning to do with the goaltending position? I'm gonna run it back. Say that again. I'm gonna run it back. Yeah, Koskinen and Smith. I feel good about it. Feel good about it? Oh, okay. Well, it's good to hear. I'm glad you're confident because I'm sure as hell not. But for Sakic, I don't know if it's going to be tough in division to acquire the Flower from Vegas, but they're going to be in cap problem for a while. I think you could maybe do it. I don't know who the goalie is, but you have to. You have to address it. because there's no excuse here. You could win the cup this year. You have McKinnon in his prime. You have Rantanen in his prime. You have McKinnon making $6 million, way less than he should, on a small deal. Push the chips to the middle. And I'm not saying he won't, but he didn't last year. Grubauer and Francouz are not going to win you a Stanley Cup. Point blank. Get somebody. Anyone. Not those two. Not those two. And again, I mentioned last week, maybe it's Jonathan Quick. He's not what he used to be, but he's better than those two. Maybe, no, not saying it's there's got to be an option. Maybe you can get one of the guys out of Columbus, Merzlikins or Korpisalo. If you offer them a good deal, maybe you can get one of the goalies out of there. They got two potentially number one starters there. You can lure one of them out with a good deal. And it would just frustrate me this year to watch Colorado in the playoffs if they got those two jokers coming out in net and then they bow out to a team that they should beat. But they lose last night to Minnesota. That was besides the point. It's one game. But it's just address it. Address it, Joe. Just address it. The game of the weekend for me was Bruins Capitals. I want to watch that game. I wanted to see these two Titans, Zdeno Chara playing against his old team. And, he didn't shy away from physical play, which I don't think anybody's surprised. He went at Brad Marchand. Marchand and him were kind of added a little bit in the game, which I love to see. It was a tough start for Boston. Washington jumped out to an early lead. In Washington, with Ovi coming back, Washington looked impressive to me. They looked good. Their third line, I think, was their best line Saturday night. Dowd, Hagelin, Hathaway. I love that line. They were all in the offensive zone all night. They got some good opportunities. Nick Backstrom's been off to a great start. He scored another beauty goal. Obviously, they're still missing Orlov. They're still missing some defensemen back there. But Washington looks legit. And Vanacek's been playing great too. He was the backup goalie coming in, really an unproven guy, but Samsonov out. He's made every start and he's looked solid for them. But Boston, they showed a lot of resolve too. Down 3-0, they fought back. Marchand scoring on the power play. You see them tie the game late. Charlie McAvoy potting one in. Nick Ritchie continues to deliver with another power play goal. So, I think Brandon Carlo really stood out for me Saturday night for Boston. He's physical. He got guys off the puck. I thought he made smart decisions. But, again, for Boston, you let Z go. And then you replace him with likes of Zaboral, Lauzon, Connor Clifton. I still don't think that's a smart decision. You don't, these guys are unproven defensemen. They haven't earned it in the NHL. And why not bring Z back just on energy alone? He's playing over 20 minutes a night in Washington. He's been in their top four with Orlov out. He can handle it. Is he going to have nights where he looks slow and has a rough game? Of course. But there's players, there's 7-6 defensemen. I mentioned Travis Dermott. Every other game, he looks terrible. Z looks better than Dermott right now. And just the emotion he brings to the team, to the game, that the team just seems happier with him around. That's half the battle there. And so credit to Washington. Washington ended up winning in overtime. The grade 8 gets the puck from Tom Wilson. He goes shelf, his first game back. And he's got such a quick release. He's still, but he hasn't hardly scratched the surface yet. He was quarantining for 10 days. Washington looks good. I think they came back and got a point out of that game. So credit to them, but the two teams meet again tonight. And they play, 8 times this year. That's tough. These points are going to be crucial in seeing who can move up the standings. Pittsburgh got a win. against New York in overtime. Crosby scored the overtime winner. We see yesterday Philly beating the Islanders in overtime. The Islanders struggles continue. So this division is going to be a dogfight. And, Philly, I think Philly, Boston, and Washington are the three best teams to start the year. But Pittsburgh stayed right in there. I like the resolve. And, they play the Rangers again tonight. So, with Crosby, I'll never underestimate Pittsburgh. I'm not going to say that they're not going to make the playoffs because I picked them to make the playoffs before the year. I'm not going to, back off that now. I like Pittsburgh. I still think their goaltending is an issue. Their defense core. I mean, to be honest, the whole league, you say the defense core is an issue. Because there's more bad defensemen than good defensemen in the NHL. In my opinion, in the grand scheme of things, there are more bad defensemen than good defensemen. If you look at the 5, 6, 7 guys on each team, they're really not that good. They really aren't. And goaltending is a really tough position to play. And I think it's tougher than a defenseman. It beats it out. But defense is tough. Because forwards now more than ever are lazier than ever. And coming back to the zone, giving a shit about their own zone and breakouts. It's a fundamental thing, but I think it's still really hard to teach and put that into players' minds that, okay, I'm going to need you to come back in here and at least help out your defenseman to get an exit pass so we can break out. It's very tough, I think, for forwards to really adapt and do it. And it can translate into wins. I think Edmonton's a team that has to do it more and do it more effectively because you got that defense core out there. You're going to be hemmed, and guess what's going in the net? Because Koskinen's not that great either. So just fundamentals like that. When you have defensemen you don't really trust, the teams that win use their weakness, but they use their strength and their forwards and say, okay, you're going to come back in here. Maybe you won't get as many offensive opportunities. Maybe you have a shorter shift, but guess what? We broke out of the zone. Our next line comes out. We cycle. They get the puck. They put it in the back of the net. There's that trade-off. Also, this week, the Canucks, really responded. They looked terrible to start the year. They were losing to Montreal, and it was ugly for them, to be honest. But, they respond with 3 wins against Ottawa, which, grain of salt. But they beat Ottawa 3 times with a score of 16-3 in the 3 games. And then they beat the Jets Saturday night. That was an impressive win for me. The Jets look like a good team. They're still got another week without Pierre-Luc Dubois. Line A is likely going to play his first game as a Blue Jacket tomorrow night. So it's a different quarantine rules and all that shit here. But, they're playing well. We've seen Thatcher Demko really catch his game here. JT Miller starting to find the back of the net. Pettersson, who really struggled out of the gate, has found his game. So Tyler Mott's been off to a great start. Even Tyler Myers, I think, has played really well. So, the Canucks got an important week here. They got 2 against Montreal and then 3 against Toronto, the 2 best teams in the division. That's a good measuring stick for them. Obviously, standings-wise is important, but it's also a measuring stick where you stand. Montreal tonight and tomorrow, then Toronto Thursday, Saturday, Monday. Can you go home? Can you go back to Vancouver with 3 of the 5? I think that would be really impressive. If you could do that, win 3 of the 5 on the road, even getting 2. I know that sounds. It starts tonight. If you could win the first one tonight, then you're kind of playing with house money the rest of it here. But it's a tough trip. You're on the road. It's a lot of games. But it'll be interesting to see what Vancouver can bring. I think JT Miller playing changes that lineup completely. I think it gives them a little more of an edge, and he's kind of a spark plug and a catalyst for that team. So the Canucks look good, and like I said, they beat Ottawa, but you can only play who's on your schedule. Every team in the Canadian division is going to get Ottawa. Edmonton got them last night. So, but you got to beat them when you play them. Toronto has lost to Ottawa this year. Ottawa looks terrible. Ottawa has beaten Toronto. So it's going to happen. But when you get them, you got to beat them. And for Vancouver, you've gotten past the layups that you're supposed to. Now you get that big measuring stick, and can you raise your game to that level? We'll see. It starts tonight. But yeah, a lot of interesting things happening in the NHL. Of course, there's just games galore, teams, and it's going to keep happening. Vegas is not playing tonight and tomorrow due to COVID complications. I think Alex Pietrangelo may have tested positive for COVID. They have a bunch of guys on the list for contact tracing and things like that. So that's going to happen. Chicago added a few more players to the list yesterday. So COVID's not going away in New Brunswick or in the NHL, but hopefully teams can keep playing, and we have something to watch every night with the NFL winding down. And I'm going to talk about this more as the NFL goes away, but the NBA, I think it's had a tough start to the year. It's been really COVID wrecked. A lot of teams haven't been playing. They've been out long stretches. And just, I don't think the notoriety's, there's been a lot of blowouts. There hasn't been a lot of close games, and that's hard to watch. You turn the game off by halftime because the score is so lopsided. But one really interesting game last night was the Brooklyn Nets, who they got James Harden, they got Kevin Durant, they got Kyrie Irving. They're playing the Washington Wizards, who were 3-13 at the time, and they got a lead late in the game, but with 8 seconds left, Wizards make a three. They're down 2. Brooklyn gets the ball back. 8 seconds. They try to inbound it. They turn it over. Washington gets the ball back. Bradley Beal takes a 3. They win the game. They scored 6 points in the final 8 seconds, and Brooklyn just blew the game. But the biggest thing for Brooklyn, they give 148 points. And they've done that 3 times since they've acquired James Harden with Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant. You cannot give up that many points, especially to the Wizards. The Wizards are terrible. They're 3-13, like I said. You need to play some defense, and they just aren't right now. And that's the biggest problem with them. They don't have a lot of length. They don't have their center position. They got DeAndre Jordan, but he's starting, but he was really the backup center because they had to trade Jared Allen. I think they're really contenders to the Lakers, but as of right now, they aren't because they can't play defense. And you need to play some. And I see the rumors that they want to acquire JJ Redick. Well, he's one of the smallest guards in the NBA, and he doesn't play any defense. That would hurt their team more than help them. You're not going to win 160 to 158 in the playoffs. You just aren't. The Lakers aren't going to play that game with you because they have got length. They can defend. But it's one game, but they've been playing some really bad defensively since they have time to gel here. But it's just an early concern for Brooklyn and what they can do long-term if they have aspirations of winning the title. But just 2 teams to watch. I think the 2 best teams in the NBA so far this year have been the Utah Jazz and the Philadelphia 76ers. The Jazz got their 11-game win streak snapped yesterday against Denver, but no shame in that. Denver's a great team too. 76ers were down last night by more than 18. They came back and win the game without Joel Embiid against the Pacers, who were 11-8 and have been off to a good start. They're just the 76ers are right there as an elite team. I think Brooklyn, I'd still take Brooklyn over them, but they're the best team in the East. They got the best record in the East right now. The Jazz have the best record in the West. But I like Embiid. I think he's the MVP so far this year. Him or LeBron, but I would take Embiid. If I had to take one, I'd take Joel. And Ben Simmons has been playing well, and Doc Rivers is the new coach. I like the 76ers. I think they can do some damage here. With the likes of the Raptors not really finding their game yet, the Miami Heat, who have been ravaged by COVID, they're 6-12 on the year. It's been a disaster for them. The East is really wide open. Milwaukee haven't played great. They lost 2 over the weekend, losing to both New Orleans and Charlotte. So the East is more wide open than ever right now for a team to pounce on it. You got the West with LeBron over there with Kawhi Leonard, and I said the Jazz, but if the 76ers can find some magic here. It wouldn't shock me to see them in the NBA Finals, just based on chemistry. Embiid, Simmons have played together a long time. Harris has been there for a number of years. With a good coach, they got chemistry. The 76ers are a real threat to win it all, and we'll see what they can do. But yeah, I'll be talking more NBA as we go along, but here on the podcast, that's going to wrap it up this morning. Later tonight, I'll be joining Craig Eagles on the FDS Podcast Network. We'll be talking with the NHL. We're going to be doing this twice a week, every Monday and Friday. So you can join us live on Facebook Live at 7:30. So you can join us there. And I'll be doing shows all week. Tomorrow I'll be with Seamus doing our Your Honor recap. Do a show Wednesday. I'm going to be joined Thursday night by Brody Terrio as we discuss the UFC and kind of UFC 257, where we see the sport going and some future battles down the road here. And then Friday morning, I'll be joined by Matt Wright. He's been on the podcast many times. We'll be talking Super Bowl, what can we expect there, and make some predictions and things like that. But lots of shows this week, a lot of content coming, so keep your eyes and ears open. Have a great week, everybody. It's great to get into February, so stay safe, and we'll talk soon.